Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much, Khanjan, for taking the time out today. Khanjan is currently working with PayPal as a senior product manager. She's previously worked with brands like BCG, Bain, Vodafone, and Razorpay most recently. And she's had quite a few years in the product management domain. I'll let you spearhead the conversation today, Khanjan, and please take us through how to ace product management interviews.
Thanks, Weber. Thank you everyone for joining. Firstly, I'm going to share a presentation because I just feel that makes everything better. So let me just pull out the chat. So thank you so much everyone. And I don't know if you will be able to ace product management after this session, but what you can expect from this session and what we've tried to do is make you apprised of the world of product management. What does it entail? What are you supposed to expect and what are you supposed to not expect? At the same time, I want the session to be very action oriented. So I want you all to go back and take some actionable insights from it. I don't want to be a faffy session where I just speak and you don't understand anything or it's just like a theoretical session. So I'm going to make sure that I do a live case. I walk you through a live case and how to solve it for an interview that you might be having or that you might crack in the future. And then we'll keep some few minutes at the end for Q&A session as well. I've also tried to share some resources with you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to keep it simple but very action oriented. And if you have any specific questions, then Weber, you can basically share in the chat if you want them to put it in the Q&A box or you want them to put it in the chat box over. That's on.
Yeah, Q&A or the chat. We'll monitor both and it's absolutely fine. Either of those two work. Q&A would be preferable, but even the chat box.
Okay, sure. So let me start with giving you a quick summary about myself. I did my MBA and BTech as an integrated course from Narsee Monjee, Mumbai. And then I joined Vodafone. I joined Idea Cellular, but then they merged with Vodafone because Jio came into picture. And so I worked on a few products, technologies, merger integration aspects at Vodafone Idea Limited. That's where I came. I was sort of exposed to the world of consulting and I thought, okay, let me try my hands at Bain. And so I joined Bain. Again, there I worked with UK and Europe-based clients on, various strategies and various product recommendations to enhance their customer service experience. But then in between, I thought it's a good point for me, now that I had some experience in my hand, to join a B school. And my choice was Indian School of Business at that time, because I just felt that, firstly, I did not have a lot of, I did not want to put 2 years in another MBA since I already had an MBA. And secondly, I felt that the kind of experienced professionals who show up there in the peer network and in the alum network would give me a good exposure to a lot of learnings and a lot of opportunities. And that's exactly what happened. So there I maneuvered through a product management preparation journey, and I could successfully land a couple of shortlists and a couple of roles. And I finally chose to join Razorpay as a product manager. At Razorpay, I worked on their neo-banking vertical, which is called Razorpay X. And I got to work on a lot of fun things. So I got to launch, or rather build, their 0 to 1 mobile app. And then I got to work on retention as a metric. So a lot of companies, product managers actually have metrics which they own. So it could be retention, it could be acquisition, it could be, growth, anything, right? So I was working on retention as a metric. And that's when I got exposed to the opportunity at PayPal, which offered me a global exposure. And I got to work on multiple geographies. So that's why I decided to join PayPal. And right now I am working in the pricing team. So I lead a couple of Scrum teams. If you don't know about what Scrum means, then don't worry. We will talk about it as we move forward. So this is the journey about me. And in my side time, of course, don't have free time, but I try to create free time because I love to share whatever I've learned. I love to learn from other people. And so I've done a lot of things on my YouTube channel. I've worked with a lot of other, groups and schools to share whatever inputs I have. So I intend to make this session as fruitful for you as possible. And I'm really grateful that finally Masters Union is there and I got to work with them as well. So that's about me. Now let's get to the basics, right? So Product management, you might have read about it. It means multiple things, but from a very practical perspective, it is the practice, right? It's basically why I call it a practice is because nobody is a perfect product manager. You cannot be an expert product manager. And if somebody claims to be that, it's just, I don't know, like it cannot be true, right? So it's the practice of managing people, processes, and projects in a way that a product can be built, right? So it could be a product, or it could be iterations of a product, or it could be features in the product, which could be built to solve a problem or address a need in the market. So it's not always that you're going to find the problem and solve it, right? Otherwise, there would be no duplicates. There are multiple alternates and duplicates or complements and supplements of a product. So those exist because there are various needs which are underserved. There are various untapped potentials that exist in the markets, which different versions, different alternatives of a product can cater to. So in a nutshell, what is product management? It's simply you manage everything. It could be a person, it could be a process, it could be a project, it could be a code, anything and everything that you need to manage in order to get a product out of the way to the customer to solve a certain problem or cater a need. That's it. Now, who is a product manager? So a product manager is the person who performs the act of understanding this problem. What is it that has to be solved for? What is it that has to be met? They identify the need, so they have to do a lot of research, they have to do benchmarking, they have to do a lot of talking in order to listening to understand what is this need that has to be identified and catered to. They ideate a laundry list of potential solutions. So they basically think of the problem as they start with a problem. They understand why is it a problem? Is it even a problem or not? And if it is a problem, how many people are solving for it? Why are they not able to still create an impact? Or what is the shortcoming? What is the gap? And they try to create a laundry list of features or solutions which could be potential solutions, right? After this, there is a stack ranking that happens. What is a stack rank? Nothing but rank ordering the potential solutions. So you basically say that, okay, out of the 100 ideas that I have, only these two are what align with my company vision. I have the technical team to build that, or the manufacturing capacity to build that. I have the right resources to bring it out to the market, and it will solve the problem, right? This is whatever different aspects that you have to consider. The product manager prepares a stack rank. After this stack rank comes the features that are going to go in that version of the product. If it is a new product, it is called a minimum viable product, which is the MVP. If it's an existing product and there are iterations or there are additions, then it could be called X version of the product rollout, right? And then they work with tech or / manufacturing for building software / tangible products, right? And they develop it. Now, do they write the code or do they actually manufacture the product? No. They work with tech to clarify the requirements, to make them understand the goals, to make them understand the impact that has to be created, to make the user flow, to define the user journeys, right? What should the user experience? Maybe also give recommendations in design, give recommendations in how this is going to be looking and feeling. All that has to be imparted to tech for the development of the product. Then they are involved in launching the product. So they decide who gets to use the product, which geography, which tenure, what time is it going to be launched, what is the story of launch, what is the brand image that has to be conveyed. All that, they are a part of it. They work with marketing teams in this case. And then the last thing is they track the success. That if you just launch something and just flee, it does nothing for the company, right? Or it does nothing for you if you're the owner of your product. So you have to analyze the data, you have to analyze how is the experience of the customers with that product, and then ultimately tracking success based on certain metrics. So that is what is the most basic version. Now, why should you become a PM? Or are you considering becoming a PM? Then you should just think whether you are one or two or all of this. One, you are a problem solver. You are not somebody who knows what the problems are, but who doesn't care. Then you don't have anything to be a PM for, right? You are a multitasker. You cannot say that I just want focused attention on development. So please, marketing team, don't disturb me today. Just come 5 days back or 5 days after or come 5 months after, right? You cannot say that. You have to listen to 7 to 8 different things and multitask and be sane. You have to be calm, you have to be composed and structured. You can organize the messiest chaos. It will be a mess more often than not in the biggest of the companies or the smallest of the startups. A PM is the person who brings structure to clustered requirements, to clustered understanding, opposing viewpoints, conflicts. All of that has to be aligned, articulated, structured, and organized by the product manager. You love learning new things every day. So if you're somebody who thinks that now you're at a point where you don't want to learn anything new, where you just have a vision, you have a bias, and you like to work on that, then this is not going to work, because every new day you have to give an ear to your customers and or stakeholders and iterate or change or adapt accordingly, and your product has to reflect that. So you should be willing to learning new learnings every single day. Can talk to any person without bias or judgment. If you are a product manager and if you say that I just don't find any sense in what you're talking about, so I'm not going to do anything that you are requesting for. That's not how a product manager works. Empathy is the biggest strength that a PM should have. And so you could be an introvert, you could be an extrovert, but at least you need to have that empathy and that understanding of where the other person is coming from. And you need to, care for that person. You cannot say that I really don't care what you think or what you say. Right. And that leads to the next point, which is you have to be empathetic towards the customers and peers. You have to look at the big picture. So it cannot be that you talk to your customer service agents and they give you small complaints and you keep on improving upon that. That's your job. But then look at the big picture, right? What would be the next rollout? What would be the next product that's going to be launched? What is the market, moving towards? What are the big trends? What are the big launches, the IPOs, right? You have to have that vision, that business strategic alignment, but you have to iron out the finer details. So the daily problems that come, the bugs that come, the improvements that are requested for, all of that is under your purview. Now, what product management is not. So do not confuse product management with building the product yourself by coding or by manufacturing, right? You are not going to be sitting on the phone and taking complaints every single day. Does that mean that you'll never get complaints from your customers? No. You are there to solve their problems, right? So you will have to listen to what your customer success teams are saying, or you sometimes in Razorpay, funny thing was that I used to talk so much with my merchants and customers. They thought I'm a customer service agent. So then they used to have my number on save mode, and they always used to call me ki my payout is not gone through, give me the resolution of this ticket. And no matter how much you try to explain them, you have to help them, right? Because ultimately you are representing your company and your product, but that's not your core job. So, and you are not going to be the branding or the PR head or the marketing person of the product. You will define the story because what is it that you're solving for the customers. But that doesn't mean that you're going to decide the collaterals, you're going to decide the marketing pitches, or you're going to launch the advertisements for it. That's not your job. And lastly, you are not responsible for directly designing the product wireframes. Now, what is a wireframe? Some of you might not know. It's nothing but how the layout of the product is going to be like. So if it's a software product, what's the design of the website? What are the user journeys? What kind of buttons will be there? What kind of call to actions will be there? And so on and so forth. If it's a physical product, then how would the design look like? What would be the look and feel, right? All of those aspects. So you are a part of it. Now you're a part of all 4 of these, but you don't directly handle these, is what the message is here. Now, I'd like to pause at this point and just quickly go to the chat box and see if this is too fast or too slow for you. Tell me if the pace is real loud. All going good. Okay, perfect. So let's move to the next part, which is how to become a product manager. Now, probably majorities, a lot of people are here. So, oh, thank you for joining. But majority of you are here probably to know, how do I become a product manager? You could be a software engineer, you could be a student, you could be a product designer, you could be a consultant, you could be an engineer, anything and everything. First question is, can I become a product manager? Yes. Irrespective of what you are today, you can become a product manager. How easy or how difficult will it be for you is defined on three things. One is, how much effort are you willing to put? Second is, if you have a very easy fit, for example, if you're already a product analyst, it's going to be much easier for you versus if you're a let's say if you're a dancer, right? For example, I have a friend who's an actor, and he now wants to pivot to product management. So I'm mentoring him on how to do it. Now, it's very difficult for him, but versus I already have friends who are product analysts or who are software engineers, for them, it's much more easier. So it's not that the other person cannot become, but the effort that he has to put is a lot more than probably what these people will have to put, right? Does it mean that you should put less effort if you have a good fit? No, of course not. Third thing is, you should be practicing. So if you think that just theoretical knowledge, just taking classes, just taking courses, reading books is going to fetch you a shortlist or, join a product company or a product role, that's not going to work out. Because right now, as we speak, the competition for this role is really like it's monumental. And when I joined in 2020 as a formal PM, and it was not this crowded, honestly. I don't know what has happened in these 2 years. Probably it's been identified as one of the best roles to join, and it has a good visibility, it has a good learning curve, it has a good growth potential. So, which is why now it is super crowded. So, it is the right time to enter, but it will take a lot of effort on your side. And so, the first thing that you should be working on is the work experience, right? How to get work experience which is relevant to a product manager's work experience. If you are in your company where you have an opportunity to work with a product manager or shadow one, or maybe just take a project, in standby and work on it, then you should be trying to do that. But if not, then try to get live experience outside of your company. Of course, make sure that you don't lose your job, but be smart about it. Try to take internships, try to connect with founders who don't have a product team and who might use your help. You might have a lot of theoretical knowledge and you might be good at practicing cases. So then you might be able to translate those learnings to help the founders out. Try to connect with your peers and your colleagues who might be in product fields and ask them if they want any kind of support or if they can work out a solution for you to just shadow them or work with them, or be on a contract mode with them, right? And so these are a few ways in which you could probably work in your own company or your friends or slash networks companies. But at the same time, you should also consider participating in a lot of these placement groups, right? So now Masters Union is there. There's PM School, there's Exponent, there are many more, and now there's no dearth of these groups. So join any peer group, right? Join any groups which offer placement assistance, which offer practices, which offer cases to you every week. So practicing those and connecting with like-minded people will keep you motivated to actually land something which contributes to your work experience, right? So that's the first part, which is gain work experience. Second thing is build a product portfolio. Now, what is a product portfolio? So, for example, you are in a college right now, or you have graduated and you're working as an engineer somewhere, or you're working, let's say, as a journalist somewhere. Okay, so these are very opposite roles, which is why I chose it. No specific indication here. Whatever you're working as, try to show that you have a product sense. Now, what does product sense mean? It basically means that you try to look at the problems You try to identify ways of improving it, and you make recommendations or changes or build things in your own product. So if you're an engineer, you possibly will already be having some kind of a product that you're coding for, or some kind of a service that you're integrating for. Try to work with your product teams, or with your managers, or with your consultants, to identify what are the pressing needs that we have not solved for, or what are the changes that we could do, that you could recommend, which could maybe make your retention grow by 20%, right? And show that impact in your profile. This is the kind of work that goes in a product portfolio. The second thing that could go is, just take any product of your choice and do a case on, improving it, or suggesting new features on it, or doing a root cause analysis. Make a presentation, put it on LinkedIn, right? And just showcase that, hey, look, this is what I've solved for. Give your thoughts, right? That's another way to build your personal brand, to showcase your talent. So there's a very funny, not a funny case, but it's actually a very good case, is that one of such persons, he had redesigned the Razorpay, one of the Razorpay products, and Harshil, who was our founder, he came across it, and he had an interview lined up, right? Just because he shared it on LinkedIn, it caught his eye. It was really good, and he got an interview invite. I don't know if he joined or not, but so basically build your visibility and your credibility by sharing blogs, or maybe you could make videos, you could make podcasts, anything and everything that you have good knowledge over. Do not copy. Please do not do plagiarism. It's better to not have anything than to have bad reputation. So be very careful of that, but try to create original content. Try to just share what your learnings are from some books or some peers, or just try to observe things in your own company. Try to maybe run an event in your college which you are the leader of, and then share what problems did you solve for in that event, and basically translate everything that you do into a product portfolio, right? These are some of the suggestions that I've put for you, but there are multiple other things that you could do. And since you have already joined this session, I'm assuming you already know a lot of these things already. So I hope that you practice on it, and collate all of these things in a document. So it could be a Word doc, it could be a, whatever, it could be over an Excel, anything, any format that you like. Try to collate all the things you have done, attach links to it, and then when you're sharing a resume with a recruiter, also share this portfolio with that recruiter, so that they know that even when you don't have experience directly in product management, you still have done so much without any formal recruitment. And imagine what all would you do when you formally get recruited, right? So that sends out a very strong and a very positive message. The third and the most important thing is, have a well-structured PM resume. What is a PM resume? There are certain formats, there are certain buckets, there are certain skills that you should showcase if you want to be highlighted as a product manager candidate. So what could be these buckets? It could be customer research, data analysis, problem solving, stakeholder management, product development, launches, go to market, right? All of these buckets could be there. Now, you might ask me that, Khanjan, we are not a product manager. How do we know all these buckets? The simplest answer is, whichever job you're applying to, even if you're not applying, just go to any career portal, take a CV, take a job description from any career portal of any product manager opening, see for what are the requirements that they are asking for. Convert them to buckets, put in your resume, and articulate your work experience in those buckets, right? I have made a video on this on my own channel. I've linked the channel at the end. You can refer to it. There are multiple other great YouTubers, mentors who do, work around resumes as well. So you could refer to any of that. There are formats. So when I say follow one format for storytelling, this part, what it means is, there is either an RAC format, so that's result, action, and challenge, or / context, or it could be CAR, which is the reverse, or it could be STAR format, which is situation, task, action, and result. So if you are picking one format for one line, follow that for all your lines. There should be no deviation in the storytelling that you do in your resume. I've seen that sometimes, see, as a recruiter, I have 2 minutes to glance one resume. I don't have more time than that, right? So make my 2 minutes such that I can focus on everything that you want me to focus on. And that happens by good, concise, pointed storytelling. That will happen through sticking to one format, bucketizing things, organizing things, and only telling the relevant parts. Don't tell everything about your life in your resume. It's not a biography, right? The fourth part is how you should approach the interviews. Now, product management interviews, fortunately or unfortunately, are not like any other interview that you will come across. What are the differences? The first one and the most basic one is, more often than not, they will never ask you about your fit or your expertise about the domain or what have you done in the past. They will directly come and ask you a case to solve, right? So what are these cases? There could be various types of cases, which I have covered in the subsequent slide, but basically it could be to design a product or to improve a product or to do a root cause analysis, to define the strategy of a product. It could be a riddle. It could be maybe a technical question. So Microsoft is famous or slash infamous for asking technical questions such as linked lists and trees and I don't know what nots. I'm not a computer science grad, so I don't know, which is why I didn't get through. But yeah, so basically whatever company you're applying for, go to Glassdoor, go to YouTube and find what the interview process for that company looks like. Because every company has a different structure, right? So try to see whether they are heavily focused on technical questions or they're heavily focused on cases, or they ask you about your work experience, but they expect a product fit kind of an answer. So what does that mean? For example, in PayPal, I was asked that what was the biggest challenge you have faced? Now, I cannot just give a plain blank answer like it was managing stakeholders, it was dealing with leadership, that's going to throw me out in a second. How you should answer it is in a star format. So again, start with a situation, explain the product you were working on, showcase the task that you were assigned, what were the challenges, what action did you take, and what result did you generate. So even your vague questions should have very structured and very product focused answers, right? And then if they've directly asked you a case that, for example, how would you increase the retention rate for Myntra? Then I know that it's a case. So I have to give, a case solution for that. I'm not going to say that, hey, when I was in blah, 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 I did this, that, right? It's not that question. So basically the first point is prepare for a PM specific interview by practicing cases. Record your own mock interviews. So sit in your room, pick up a question, and before that gain theoretical knowledge. But then once you have that, you have your structures ready, practice a mock, record yourself and see where you are having glitches, where you are making no sense, where you are pausing for answers, how much time are you taking in the pauses, are you asking enough questions or not, are you directly jumping to solutions. Basically assess yourself. You could also practice this with your peers. So you might have brothers, sisters, you might have friends, you might have colleagues, husbands, wives, mothers, whoever you are with. Practice a mock interview with them and ask them to give you feedback. Preferably, when I was in ISB, the biggest benefit for me was that I could practice it with my own peers who were also super talented and who were eyeing for product roles. So the feedback that you get in that setting is much more valuable. But even if you don't have anybody from the product world, you still can explain them that these are the parameters that you judge me on, and then give me the feedback, right? And I'll work on it. Take feedback seriously. So if you fail in an interview, or if one of the feedback that you get is hideous, right? Or if you get a very great feedback, do not take it to the heart. Be pragmatic about it. I was taught by one of my professors that feedback is feedback. It can never be good or bad, right? So whatever it is, just incorporate it and learn from it. And I assure you, you will get better in your next interview, right? And the last point in the interview part is that have a compelling case to build for why you are a perfect candidate and not your other person who is interviewing. How would you do that? By all of these. By having a strong resume, by being clear on your story, by solving the case properly, being confident, not jumping to the solutions, showing that you have practiced things, showing that you have knowledge of the product that you are applying for, and showing that you have a good product portfolio in your hands. right? So this is the end of the second section, which is how to become a PM. Now, we spoke about what are the cases, or that there are specific cases, right? So I want to touch upon this. What are the product case types? Now, the first part is that it could either be, about problem solving. So they could tell you that, hey, there is this particular hypothetical problem that the candidate is expected to solve. You will have 1 hour as a total time. So you will have good 35 minutes only to actually solve the case, because 5 minutes will go in introduction, 5 minutes will go in Zoom setting, whatever, 5 minutes will go in the person explaining you the case, then you will ask clarifying questions, and so ultimately remove 15-20 minutes here and there, and you will have 35 to 40 minutes to actually solve that case. Sometimes there is a take home case. So in the international processes that I have witnessed, they don't ask you for the answers right away. They give you a case and they give you a week or 2 days or 3 days to solve it, and then there's a subsequent discussion on that case. Here, the solution doesn't matter. Of course, it doesn't have to be ridiculously misaligned, but what you say doesn't matter. How you approach the problem, what is your structure, what is your format, is what matters. So you have to focus on that. Pressure testing happens by giving you unconventional, pressure clad scenarios. So what does this mean is that they could tell you that, I was asked this question in one of the company's interviews, that you have $1 billion, what product would you build and why? Now, this is such a vague question, and to think of anything at that point and justify why you are building only that and how will you spend the $1 billion, it's a high pressure situation, right? So if I directly jump to a solution because I am pressured and I want to overperform, or I could go blank. So there could be multiple scenarios that could happen. And so at that point, you should be composed, think through for good 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever time you take. Try to create a structure out of ambiguity, because that's what you're going to do as a real PM, right? So try to create a structure, try to articulate the flows well, and then approach the question and be calm. Whatever happens, just be calm. Worst thing that would happen is you'll not get that, you'll not go ahead. That's all. Nothing worse is going to happen. You're still practicing, which is, you're practicing for free, right? So which is still a great thing. Otherwise, people pay to practice. The third thing is there could be a work experience mapping exercise that happens in the product case type itself. So they could ask you, as I said, right, that they could ask you what was the challenge that you faced, or how do you like to handle the technical stakeholders, or how do you approach the design tasks associated with a product, and so on and so forth. So in this case, you should be specific. As I said, have a situation, have a problem, articulated well, link it to your work experience, make it very personal, try to really give them a picture of how you solved for it, and be genuine. If you're going to lie in this, more often than not, it will go into multiple webs and you'll be caught. So try to be genuine. If you cannot think of anything in your work experience which gives an answer to their question, then just be direct and say that, fortunately, this situation has never come to me, or unfortunately, this is not what aligns with my experience. So can we talk about something else? And that's okay. But talking nonsense is going to be a heavier cost than not saying anything, is what I mean to say here. Now, let's get to the case types. The first one is the RCA, which is the root cause analysis type. And this is what I did with Exponent and which got viral. But basically, this is where a specific problem is asked, right? So for example, how the cart orders are falling, or let's say the checkout button is not working, or our growth rates declined month on month in the last 3 months, and so on and so forth. And here you have to identify a cause, or more than one cause, of a certain product which had surfaced in a function. So what this case type demands is for you to make assumptions, call those assumptions out. Just don't make it and eat it up and speak, right? You have to call those assumptions out. You have to guesstimate. What is a guesstimate? That you have to make guesses to estimate certain numbers, right? You have to do the user journey mapping, because how will you find out the cause if you don't map out the entire journey or the funnels? You have to dissect the product design. It could be that there's something wrong with the website design or the app design or the design of the product, physical product. So you have to dissect the design and see where the problem lies. And last is you have to focus on specifics. So this is what the RCA case type is. After this session, just go and look for some frameworks on root cause analysis solving and try to connect those frameworks with what I have given you in this line, right? So try to solve for a case and try to put all of these things and see how your solution is coming out like. The second case type is the strategy case type. What this means is that you are going to be asked an impactful strategy to achieve a certain goal. Now, what could these be? It could be that, hey, we have just launched and we want to acquire the 30% share of this market. How would you go about it? Or it could be that we have a competitor that has emerged and survival for us is a challenge. How do we diversify? Or it could be that what kind of new product rollouts can we do to stay, top of the game, right? Anything. So in this, what you are demanded of is business understanding. You have to make sure that you understand the business goals and the overall USP, the unique selling point of that company or that product. So you have to ask questions to learn that. You have to show that you have enough insights of that industry. If you don't have, then ask questions. For example, what is the industry size? What are the different, competitor industries? Or what is the month-on-month or year-on-year growth in this industry? There are various research reports that you might get in whatever, you might just get it from Google, or for example, I used to get it in ISB, and they have all the industry insights. So for example, telecom industry, all stats will be there, apparel industry, all stats will be there. So try to read up on these things at a daily level so that during the interview, if you showcase that you have specific insights on that industry, you will definitely get brownie points. If you don't have insights on industry, you will not be penalized, but then ask questions. Don't just say that I don't know anything about this industry. Can we change the case? You cannot say that. That's going to be a reject straight away, right? And the last thing that is demanded of you here is breaking big goals. So for example, acquire 30% in the market into actionables. What is this market? Who are the players? What is the current market share? What has been the history like? What is the industry growth rate? What is our product? What are the features? What are our competitors doing? So all these questions will lead you into an actionable strategy / recommendation for developing the strategy or the vision of your product. The third case type is the most common one, which is product design case type. Here, they will just tell you that whatever, design a clock for the blind or design poem singing app for kids, anything. Like, I'm just going blank on product ideas right now, but it could be asked to you to design a new feature or a new product, or improve or change the design of an existing product or an existing feature. What does this demand of you? One, of course, understanding the problem, understanding the need, trying to bring in the customer lens. What does this mean? It means that you should be thinking how the customer will think, right? What would they expect out of the product? Not what you want to give. What would they expect, and whether or not you can solution for it or not, and how best can you optimize for it? Recommending features. So you should understand how features are categorized, what type of features exist in various products, how do you recommend them, right? So the language of the PMs is what you have to learn. There are jargons, there are terms. You should be knowing those terms at that point. You should know the prioritization frameworks. So either you do it on effort, impact, ROI, whatever, or you do it on cost versus benefit, or you do a RISE framework, or there are multiple frameworks for prioritizing. Just read up on it and have your list ready, right? So at that point, whatever makes sense, just use it, but have a framework. Don't just say that I think that this is better than this, so I'm going to pick it up. Straight reject, right? You have to give a logic, you have to give a framework, you have to give an understanding, a rationale of every word that you say. And lastly, you should be knowing what are the different success metrics attached to a product type and a category, and you should be stating those. These are the three major case types that could come. There are certain which are a mix of these, or they could be something arbit, or they could be, specific to your work experience. But majorly, these are the three which you should be learning about and you can start with. Now, as I said, I did not want to keep this generic. So I have solved a mock case for you, which is designing a loan app for farmers. Of course, this is not the only or the correct solution. It is just to give you a possible structure or an approach, right? And there are many shortcomings in this. So please don't sit and pick and choose wrong things from this. It's just a hypothetical case to run you through the kind of structures and processes that could come in such a case solving, right? If you've already practiced a lot, or if you've seen other mock interviews, the good ones, right, then all the best to you. You already know it. But for those who don't know, this is for whom I've just written this flow. Okay, so now loan app for farmers. What would be the first question that comes to me? Which farmers? Because farmers in the US are very different from farmers in India. So I'll ask, okay, which geography is this? What segment of farmers should I look at? And why do they need a loan app in the first place, right? Do they even have a mobile phone? Do they even have bandwidth? Do they even have that awareness to use an app in the first place? What is our total addressable market, right? And are we doing this as a charitable service, or are we looking at profit maximization? What does the company do? Is it a bank or is it an NBFC, right? These are the clarifying questions that I'll first ask. So this is what clarifying questions mean. Now, assuming some answers came to me, whatever those answers are, I'll then go to the problem understanding. The problem understanding could be that farmers need basically loans because they are short on capital with themselves or savings with themselves in, let's say, the rural areas of India, and they don't have enough backing from their earlier incomes or savings. And so they need to fund their farming expenses, which is why they need loans. So this has been established that they need loans. Now, they don't have structured income. They don't have credit options. So they don't have like a credit card, or they don't have formal, current accounts, or they don't have formal banks giving them loans like we probably get, right? And they might need loans through a mobile because banking in itself could be challenging. So assume a case where an uneducated farmer or even an educated farmer lives in a very remote area of India and they don't have access to banks until 10 kilometers, right? So they either have to cycle there, or they have to walk there, or worse, use a public transport, which is anyway crappy. And so going to a physical bank and then applying multiple times for a loan, getting rejected, being exposed to corruption, all of the nuances of Indian rural ecosystem could be bypassed if they have a mobile and they can access a loan app and just get loans, right? How much of a blessing would it be? So this could be the problem understanding. Then I'll say that, okay, fine. Now let me look at the data. Why do I need to look at the data? Is because, so what data will I look at? I'll see what kind of lifestyle they live, what kind of savings they have. Do they have bank accounts? Do they have enough knowledge of how to work with the credit system? Do they have bandwidth? What gadgets do they use? How many loans have they been dispersed historically? And so on and so forth. Why do I need this? Because I want to segmentize and identify the target customer that I want to build the app for. Right? So the next point is I'll try to build a persona. Now, persona, I will highly recommend you to read up a lot more on personas, what they are and what they are not. It's out of the scope for this class. But persona is not just a gender or an occupation or a role of a person. It's a lot of things. It's a characteristic building of a customer, right? So you'll see it could be like a middle-aged established farmer in rural India with access and need for quick loans, or it could be an old-age small-scale farmer in remote villages with no access to electricity and dire need of collateral-free loans because they don't have homes and cars and tractors to sell off, right? They don't have that, or cows and cattle and whatever. So these could be two personas which could exist for an app like this, for a product like this. Then I'll move to the laundry list of features for my target persona. So here the target persona that I've chosen is the first persona, because I feel that, launching for this kind of a farmer will be a better validation for my app, and then I can launch to the subsequent personas as well, right? So I'll say that, okay, fine, quick registration is important because they need quick loans, simpler loan options because they might not be that educated or that, well versed with how the banking system works. There should be low bandwidth access, which means that there should be LITE versions of these apps, right? And they should be able to see the loan details at the click of a button. And there should be one click payomi. Okay, this was payout. It has been misspelled as payomi. So that should be there. And then finally, I will finalize the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. So here what I do is I'll say that, okay, fine, basis my persona, my problem, my understanding, blah, blah, blah. I want to have a quick registration button. I want to have a one-click payout for the loan EMI every month. And I want to have basic hygiene features, which any loan app would have. And this is going to be my MVP for this target persona, right? And then I will say that, okay, my success metrics for the measurement of success / failure of this product would be how many people have adopted this, have installed it, have registered for it, have done the KYC, which is the know your customer verification for it, have uploaded the required documents, gotten the loans dispersed, are actually taking out the money from it and paying back, right? So all this is going to be in the adoption in the first phase. And then I will see that the regular people who have adopted this, how many are using this. So daily active usage, monthly active usage, repeat usage, retention, so month on month growth in the usage that they have, and whether they are churning from my website or from my app or not, right? All of those things. And the last thing which I'll see is the impact metrics. So has this improved their purchasing power of the crops? Has this increased their, harvest, year on year harvest that they do? Has this increased their overall incomes? Has this increased their ability to pay back loans versus the unstructured loans they used to take from zamindars or, whoever in the villages, right? And then I'll say that, okay, fine, my rollout and GTM go-to-market plan is that I'm going to roll this out in, let's say, UP for this month, and I will roll it out to 100 farmers in some district of UP. And then I will make sure I'll just measure success for them, and then I'll go for a general availability launch. So it could be my plan. There could be multiple plans. So this is how you are going to solve a real or a hypothetical case in your interviews. And even when I had written all these things down, I had thought about this, it took so much time for me. So imagine when you don't know about the case, when you don't know about anything, how difficult and pressure clad would it be? How would it not be? That is by practicing all of these things which I talked about. So this is the end of this session. These are some books, and actually this one should have been here. It's basically mock interview channels. And these are the books that you could read. They are very good books. They have helped me in my beginner days. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So the last things which you should remember, if you remember nothing else from today, is one, fanatic discipline in preparing and practicing. You cannot stop. You have to be consistent until you land that role. I assure you it will be worth it. If you land a product manager role, it will be worth it. You will enjoy it. It's the best possible role that could be there in the current scenario. Second thing is you should work on a product. It could be, your own product. It could be your friend's product. It could be a random product. Just work on it. Try to improve it. Try to make cases around it. Try to find faults in it. Try to find bugs in it, and just work on it. Third thing is scan the market. See what kind of roles exist, what are the job descriptions that are there, apply for referrals, talk to people, study about industries, study about the markets, do guesstimates. And the last thing is start small but get big. So don't just think that I'll just keep doing courses and someday to I'll land it. Don't do that. Start small, but then keep on setting up bigger goals for yourself and try to achieve those. Keep a hard deadline for you as well, right? That will help you a lot in maintaining the rigor for yourself. So that's it. These are my coordinates. I don't know if this slide deck will be shared with you or not, but maybe these coordinates could be shared with you. And that's all. I will actually stop sharing my screen now and we can open up for questions.
Thanks, Khanjan. We'll share the slides as well as your coordinates with the participants. Sure, absolutely. And thank you so much for this, especially the case. I think that was very insightful. Normally, what happens is we do give 10,000 feet level gyan, but we don't go into the specifics. So answering that particular questions was extremely helpful, I feel. I'll filter out a few questions and
Sure.
we'll try to answer them in the remaining time. Although you've answered most of these questions during the presentation, but we'll still trouble you with some of those questions again. People from across backgrounds, some people have worked in sales, some people have worked in engineering, some people have worked in other aspects. They want to transition into product roles. So is it possible for them to do that? What is the effort that they should put in? This is a common question that has come.
Yeah, so literally this entire session is the answer to that. So I'm not going to repeat that. Yeah, of course you can become, as I said, and you do all these steps and you maintain your rigor and pick up a mentor for yourself, you'll definitely land in it.
Thank you. One more question is, can people land a product role without getting an MBA?
Of course, yes. Do not get an MBA for a product role. I have been repeatedly saying this. MBAs will never assure that you get a product role. Even at a school like ISB, if 90 people wanted to be product managers, only 45 could be, and only 20 of them are actually in good, roles and that they enjoy. So MBAs do not equal to product management unless they are actual product management MBAs, which nowadays are coming, but at that time they weren't there.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. Somebody's asking that a lot of these product companies especially ask for people should have been from institutes like IITs and IIMs and ISBs. So is that the case from your vantage point? How are things changing? How important is a tag from a big institution?
I would say that yes, it's the sad truth that some companies are very hard hitting on that. So just if you're not from these colleges, just bypass them, like nobody cares. And once you have experience in product world and when you're a lateral entrant, then it won't be a hindrance for you. It's only the first job that's the hindrance. Try to find somewhere they do not require all these colleges. And once you get there, then you can definitely keep on switching.
And there are enough startups now that don't require this.
Yeah.
We're moving in a different direction now.
Yeah.
That degrees aren't that important anymore and skills are more important, right? Okay. So one question for you is, being a product manager yourself, how do you deal with market changes and how do you track your competitors? Is that something that you do actively?
It depends on what kind of a product you're in. So if it's a B2B product, then majorly it's very customized and it's very closely related to what your customers directly ask of you. But if it is a B2C, which is a business to consumer product, then yes, you have to be constantly on the lookout for what your competitors are doing. The best way to do it is go to Google Store and try to see the reviews of your competitors. That's what I did in my benchmarking exercise. Try to use their products. So if you are so when I was in Razorpay, I used to use, Paytm, I used to use PayU, etc., the competitors, right? And so whichever company or product you're working on, try to use the competitors' products as well. Find faults in them and find faults in your own product to improve upon. And then just general reading, right? General knowledge of things is helpful in any role. And of course, it's helpful in product role as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Next question is, there are 3 product roles that people have listed out. One is a product manager, one is a product owner, and then one is a product analyst. What are the difference between the 3 roles?
It's completely different. So analyst is the one who just works on, as I said, analyzing the data of that product. So it could be the usage data or the adoption data or, any kind of data that's available, customer demographics, etc. Manager is what I just described. And owner is somebody who is in an agile context. So there's a methodology called agile methodology. And in that, a product owner is a designated role for a person who runs the development ceremonies, who owns the development of that product. So they own the building and the shipping part of the product. they might not necessarily work on strategy or market benchmarking or rollout plans. They specifically work on development. But having said that, a lot of companies and especially startups, they interchangeably use PM and PO, in the same meaning. So make sure that you understand the job role and not, go for designations that much, especially when you're starting.
A couple of people have mentioned if they can get a internship at PayPal. Any thoughts?
I don't know. So see, and this is, this has been very unfortunate that people don't know enough about this, is that any big company, startups I can't talk about, but any big company, they have their career portals. You go to the career portal, you find out a role or an opening that you like, you reach out to an employee and just share that link with your resume and get a referral, right? So if there is an internship opening at PayPal, do share it with me with your resume. I'll be happy to refer, right? But if there is no internship available, then no, you cannot get, because we don't work on hiring in big companies. In startups, yes. In startups, if you have a good network with people in startups, they might more often than not offer you internships or help you out with that.
One last question. Sahil has been constantly asking us, do PMs make good entrepreneurs?
Of course, a PM is an entrepreneur. So a lot of times the job descriptions say that you should be an intrapreneur, and which means that you should be an entrepreneur mindset person, but in a company. And so, of course, you are actually doing everything that a product has to be, catered to for. And so you are obviously an entrepreneur.
Thank you. There's one question for me. Is there a product management program? I'm just sharing the link in the chat and you can apply if you're interested. I think that's all the questions that we had. Any closing thoughts, Khanjan, before we leave?
Nothing, yeah. So I just would say that keep your spirits high and be very disciplined. As I said, prepare a plan for yourself. If you are going to loosely go everywhere in all directions, that's not going to work out, and you might feel even discouraged or frustrated, which is the state in which a lot of people come to me. So I just want to say that it's possible. It is, a lot of people have done it, and you can also do it, provided you are structured and articulated about it, and try to be more vigilant on what are the existing opportunities, right? For example, getting a referral or applying for roles is the most basic kind of understanding that you should have by just scanning through different career portals, scanning through LinkedIn, and be more aware of how things are progressing. So that's my thought. And thank you so much, Weber, for, helping me out with questions and general everything.
No, thank you so much. I think this was a session full of insights, packed completely. We'll share the recordings and the deck with the students and your coordinates as well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.